So let's carry on with some side effects of fasting, which I'm sure many of you will experience and you'll have questions about. And I've got your answers for you right here. And mostly it's good news that the side effects of fasting are beneficial to you directly because they show that something useful is happening. And they're beneficial for you in terms of your deen, because going through some difficulty, self-imposed, is a sign of faith, if not anything else, right? So changes in mood, people often report changes in mood. It can lead to greater emotional stability overall, but in the first few days you might find your mood being a bit more wobbly as you get more hungry or more irritable and what have you. But broadly speaking, after a good week or so, you'll find that your mood generally settles down and your emotional stability increases. And that's because you're not subjecting your body to the swings in sugar that come from eating too often in the day. Many people with pre-existing anxiety and low mood also report improvements in mood as a result of fasting. So there's a lot to look forward to if you get through the first few days. And awareness of your mood is in itself a way to becoming mentally stronger. The fact that you notice your mood goes up and down as a result of fasting, well, that's fair enough. But becoming awake to that and knowing that your mood is something biological, it's not always rational, it's not always controllable, that gives you a sort of handle as to how to understand your mind without feeling that your mind dictates how you feel. You can say, oh, my mind feels sad, or my mind feels anxious, and you don't have to engage with that feeling as much as you did before. You can feel you can stand apart from it somewhat. Now, some people also feel dizzy. A lack of water causes dehydration, which can cause mild dizziness, especially if you're getting up to stand later in the day. The same goes for that short period later in the day when your body between sort of 8 and 12 hours starts switching from burning sugar to burning fat. And what it does in that meantime is there's a slight lull in energy because it's using up that energy to try to switch to another system. And so you might feel a bit dizzy and a bit of nausea alongside that. But that is usually not harmful and it only lasts a few seconds. If it lasts more persistently, it could also mean that you've got excess salt or that you've got a lowered blood pressure overall. And that might take some getting used to. If you take blood pressure medication, you would need to talk to your doctor about lowering the dose. But otherwise, think about having less salt in the mornings because it may be that your dizziness is related to having too much salt in your food. Small things, but important, dryness of the lips. Okay, so the most common cause of that is a lack of water on the surface of the lips. Unbeknown to us, when you eat and drink through the day, that happens to moisturize your lips. So having a lip balm can solve the dryness while fasting, as long as you're not sort of, tasting it or to get it into your mouth. After this, the main causes of dryness of lips are dehydration, followed by a lack of salt. Yeah. So you might want to increase your fluid intake, but also consider adding a small amount of salt, about a quarter teaspoon over your suhoor food should suffice if you get these dryness of lips. If the problem persists over a number of days, if it should correct itself initially, so no need to take extreme measures to start with. Now, a big one, common and irritating, is headaches. That often gets to people, and around 1 in 10 people who may get a headache in the first few days. It's usually quite mild, and it's dealt with by taking rest, doing some relaxation, dhikr, going to a darker room, just finding a quiet place. Do some slow breathing, read tasbih, it works wonders. And the commonest cause of headache in fasting is a lack of caffeine in people who are used to drinking tea and coffee through the day. And that usually should settle, depending on how much tea or coffee you've drunk. But that headache should diminish after 2 or 3 days. To have a bit of coffee or tea in the morning at suhoor is totally fine. Headaches are common in other people too, and the main causes include things like mild dehydration or a lack of salt, or just the normal kind of tension headaches that everyone gets. You still might have a stressful life, or You might be anxious about getting your things done before iftar, so obviously you might cause a bit of headache. And most causes of headaches will settle in a few days with a bit of patience and reassurance that the causes are benign, like I've told you. Heartburn happens. Heartburn is felt like a small point of pain with some sense of heat, and that's felt right in the center of the chest, just at the top of your sort of soft area where the rib cage in the middle just kind of stops, and you can almost point to it. And the commonest cause of heartburn is going to sleep after suhoor or iftar with too much food in the belly, or foods that are too spicy. So the way to get around that is to eat less to start with, and change the food that you're eating. Eat more macrobiotic food like live yogurt. Give the food time to digest, so don't eat your iftar too late. And after suhoor, don't eat too much at suhoor, but eat more of the calming foods, and give yourself a bit of time before you go to sleep. You might want to take some antacid liquids, things like Reni or Gaviscon, fairly commonly available. And you can get generic versions of those. Milk of magnesia is a common thing to ask for at a pharmacy. It does the same thing as Gaviscon. And if it persists for a few days, as always, see your doctor. The stomach makes acid to digest food, so when you start fasting, the stomach may still produce acid at expected meal times, especially if you're around food. And this is normal and will settle. Changes in sleep. Now, there's every reason to get at least as much sleep as on any other day, and actually most people have an increase in the quality and quantity of sleep overall. The suhoor and iftar times vary depending on how far north and south you live, but the body will adjust to your new schedule of wake and sleep. Most people find that the onset of sleepiness shifts forwards or backwards naturally to match the suhoor and iftar times. Sleeping fewer hours because of later nights or early morning suhoor can be offset by having a snooze in the late afternoon. And if your iftar is very late, consider delaying your sleep a little too, because you'll be eating quite late. All right, pray some tahajjud and just stay up, contemplating. You'll find actually that you'll sleep better if you buy yourself some calm down time by staying awake a bit longer before you go to sleep. And don't be put off if sleep takes a little time to adjust. Every challenge, every change in fasting is a gift to those of us who are insightful. And if you accept the challenge as such, the mind will shift from seeing things as a problem to being a chance to take advantage of this change, of this challenge. Later nights could give you quiet time on your own to reflect and play and to catch up on things that you can't do in normal waking times. These changes come along not as difficulties, but as chances to reassess how we spend our time anyway, and reclaim some sense of being in command of our day. So go ahead and claim it. Enjoy and savor those extra hours of waking. Look forward to the afternoon snooze. The bathroom will be freer than ever. You may take time to spend a very leisurely hour to have a relaxed bath at a time when others are not doing it, when they're too busy going to sleep. Warm water increases your core temperature, which is conducive to sleep. Look, the key to so much good mental health is distraction. Fasting does make you more sensitive to the mind and the body, and there's more details on the various side effects of fasting in the Tayyib book, but I've kind of covered the main things here. There's also stuff on thirst, or tiredness, and changes in sexual drive, which are also important to consider for many people in fasting. But, there's more detail in the book. But this is merely a sort of outline of things that you commonly expect and things that people ask me about a lot. Look, the mind will tend to over-elaborate on small physical things. Distractions and ignoring trivial matters is totally appropriate. Avoid things that are necessary. Don't be ransomed by your body into responding to every little ache and pain. Don't do your food shopping when you're fasting, okay? Cook the day before or keep the dishes very simple. Cut down on your socializing. If you have a long journey, plan that around the fasting. Don't Try to do it in the later stage of fasting if you can. Avoid your cooking channels on TV and social media. And these small things, they add up to make fasting a very pleasant time. And they tee you up for the deeper insights that come from fasting, which we'll look at as the month goes by. Wassalam. I hope you're having a good Ramadan. Ameen.